Welcome back to another Odyssey 40k video. I'm Chris, and in this video we're going to be going over 5 more mistakes that you could be making in your games and how you can fix them. Hope you enjoy. This video is in part brought to you by Baron of Dice. Use my code Odyssey at checkout to get 5% off and use my affiliate link down below. Cheers. Mistake number 1. Deploying without a plan. This is something that I used to fall into the trap on when I first started getting into competitive 40k, and it's something that's super easy to not think about. Is you want to deploy, a lot of people deploy to be safe, right? And deploying to be safe is totally fine. You don't want to get shot turn 1, but a lot of the times you'll deploy so safely, or I would deploy so safely that I actually didn't have, if I went first, I didn't have much of a game plan. I didn't have anything to do. So it's deciding on when you're deploying, what units are going to go where. How do you want to position your units to get as much out of them turn 1 if you do go first, but then you're also safe turn 1 if your opponent goes first. So it's kind of, there's a bit of the pros and cons of risking some units, or be like, well, if they send that unit out, I just need to have a plan that if they do send that out to kill my rhino, that I have a clapback to shoot them back with, or something like that, to deter them from even going from it turn 1 if they can. So it's stuff like that. So for this, I'm going to try and do some more examples this time around. So I'm actually going to shoot over to TTS now, and I'm going to set up an example to show you guys. So this is TTS, this is Tabletop Simulator. This is where a lot of people, this is how you can play games online and stuff like that. There's links in my Discord, in the TTS resources link, to get all the links on the Steam Workshop to get all the access to all of this if you already have Tabletop Simulator on your Steam account. And then you can play all this. You can go onto YouTube and search on how to set everything up. Really simple to do. Really, really great software. Really great for like practicing deployments like we're doing today. This one I've set up so that I have access to all the WTC maps because I like playing on WTC. It's the main way we play in New Zealand. So yeah, so that's kind of what I have here. So I can quickly cycle through all the different maps. This is not the one that I play on. This is not the map. I just have this save loaded separately just so I can access all the maps really quickly. It's kind of handy to have access to. But for this, we have a really generic Renegade Raiders list here. It truly doesn't matter what the list is. It's just the concepts, right? So for this, we have 2 Vindicators, 2 Rhinos, a bunch of Chosen and Legionaries, and some characters, right? So what you would normally do, I'm just going to pull all this over so we can do a quick deployment here. Move this stuff out of the way. Sweet. So looking at this map, and say we're just playing a take and hold, right? So just a really simple mission. What do we need to be able to do? We need to be able to fight onto our expansion and our opponent's expansion. No, would be more our expansion. It'd be more your opponent's expansion. You can see that if this is our deployment zone here, that we have a really safe spot here, really safe spot here, and a very safe spot here, and potentially here, like in here as well, and obviously behind our objectives there as well. So we have quite a bit of safe spots here, so we can play to our advantages here. How are we going to play aggress onto this? We probably want a Rhino with some Noise Marines in it. So we can put a Rhino with Noise Marines and say like a unit of Legionaries in there, and they're going to be our early skirmishing, right? So we'll just move these guys out just so you can see what's in there. So we've got like a Lord with Legionaries and a Noise Marine unit, so we can put this out if they get aggressive on us, or we can just sit it behind here on our turn 1. But we know if it's starting here, it is relatively safe. Obviously, TTS isn't great for getting angles exactly right. As you can see, there's a bit of a wiggle room there, but we know that it can sit right there. And then to get line of sight onto this guy, you need to be past this point. So you need to be right up here and even through that gap there. There's no line of sight there because the crates are in the way. So you're really completely safe here turn 1. It's a really, really nice spot to be able to start. So if we know that that's our aggressor over that way turn 1, then we probably want this something similar on the other side turn 1. So let's grab our other Rhino. And maybe we want to be a bit more aggressive with this one if we're wanting to make sure we're killing anything off this. So let's put a unit of Chosen in this one, right? So we're thinking that we put a unit of Chosen here. with, say, like a master of executions, so that we can make sure we're getting like to hit really hard with that unit. And then maybe we even put Cypher in there as well, right? And then actually everything else starts behind a wall. So the Noise Marines actually start back here. So then they could run into their turn 1 and make sure that all of them are within 10 inches. And then so turn 1, they go inside there. Again, this is really rough. This is just kind of giving you an idea of how you should be planning out your deployments. And then for the Vindicators, you want to see where the main threat lines are for your map. And you can see that there's a main threat line down here and a main line here. It's kind of the two main spots. So we want to make sure that our Vindicators can access at least one of those lines, preferably 2, but also not get hit turn 1 because you don't want to get hurt too early. So you can see there really is a huge, like, they can walk out of the deployment zone and be able to see you there. So it's really not ideal. So we might actually have to put it back a bit further, which is a bit of a bummer, but it is turn 1. So just to make sure that if they move a unit out, get onto that objective, they're not seeing you. Excellent. So as we are there, this Vindicator is completely safe. And this one has the flex of being able to go 9 inches up there, have 24-inch range, yeah, and get pretty much onto that objective. Also, that in Renegades you can advance and shoot with everything because everything gets assault. And then the other one I'd probably put to be able to clear anything that comes out to affect this primary, and then there's also just something that can go on there turn 2 or 3 to deal with that. So you could even put this a bit more aggressively, something like that, just off that terrain piece. So then turn 1, you could pivot and go, because you can advance and shoot, you can go a minimum of 8. Then the next turn, you get onto the objective if you really needed to. And then that way you have firing lines down that crack into there, your firing lines all the way down there if need be. Otherwise it can sit there and just be a kind of an aggressive piece. And you just want to make sure that you are cutting that line there, make sure you're not getting seen from that, and you're pretty darn safe there. Then we have our early action pieces. So this guy might even go right against the wall there, and then we might try and put a unit of bikers snugged in there a little bit. Now this might be one of our units that we allow to be a bit more risky, because if someone comes out to kill a unit of bikes, the amount that needs to come out to kill a unit of bikes is more than the cost of a unit of bikes usually. So usually that'll be a positive trade for us, but it also does depend on what you're playing against. A lot of the time you could do something like this. If they want to send something out just to kill a unit of bikes, fine. But then if you go first, you get this really aggressive staging point. You can flip your opponent's objective. You can do all sorts of great stuff from just being in this position. You can have a rhino sitting in there, bikers that could either just stage up where the rhino is now or somewhere a bit more aggressive. The other safer position could just be having a unit back here, so then they can flip where the rhino is after turn 1. Stuff like that. So these are the kind of concepts you want to be thinking about. You want to be thinking about, you don't want to just deploy things where they're safe. You just don't want to just deploy things reactively to your opponent. You really, 9 times out of 10, you should know where your things are going, irrespective of your opponent. The only time that you really need to be worried about what your opponent's doing is if you both have infiltrators, because then obviously you want to put your infiltrators down first if they don't, or if you win the roll-off, or if there's units that completely change the aspect of a game. So say your opponent has a unit that absolutely demolishes rhinos really, really quickly and is really fast. You need to make sure that your rhinos are safe from wherever that gets positioned. So if they only have one of them and they put it here, you want to make sure that wherever that moves, your rhinos are safe, to make sure that you're not losing tempo from just losing 2 rhinos early game. Whatever it might be. It might be an indirect piece that only has like 12-inch range or 24-inch range. So you want to make sure that you're outside of that threat ranges with everything that's outside of a rhino. Stuff like that. There's these small little tweaks that you can make, but you need to have plans for these things, and you really should just know where most of your army is going before you've even started deploying. You should really have this plan already in place where you know the rough terrain layout, you know the mission you're playing. You should understand what you need to be doing. And here we have, no matter what secondaries we pull turn 1, unless they're kill secondaries, we know that we can get onto a bunch of objectives. We probably put another unit of bikes right here, just so we can also get onto the center if need be early game and stuff like that. So like, you just want access to as many options as possible, and that's how you can really, really push these games first. If you do go first, this Vindicator can go up to there, which is super duper safe. And if these guys aren't needed, so the Vindicator could go up to there, these guys could go behind this wall here. And then you have this really great staging. Ooh, look at that. Trying to multitask here. Really great staging position for the stuff to really flip this opponent. You have 6 OC there. You have a great shooting threat to go out and push. This Rhino can move up to there. This Rhino can go up to there. And now you're in such an aggressive position in this map that, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to deal with. And then you have the tempo to really just threaten the game, threaten the map for the rest of the game, because you've gotten everything where you need it. This guy could even pivot around and get to like there, so he has more of an aggressive angle for the next turn. Stuff like that. This can be really, really strong. But if you don't think about it beforehand, you're going to fail. Mistake number 2. Misjudging terrain advantages. This is actually very similar to the first one, and that's why I wanted to put it right next to it. And this is a bit more of a higher level question to be asking yourself before every game. And that is, how does the terrain affect my game plan? And this will change depending on what layout you're on, and this doesn't just for WTC, this is for GW, this is for UKTC, whatever terrain format you're playing on. Yes, I play on WTC predominantly myself, but I do flex onto the others, and they do feel very different. So you've got to have a game plan for whatever terrain format you're playing on, but not just that, but especially on, say, like WTC, you can see how many different maps they have here. You need to understand how the different maps affect you differently. So here we have a standard search and destroy map on a medium table, and we're just going to kind of analyze where the good places are to hide on this, where the good places are, like, and where the tempo can be in a certain game. And we'll go over just a couple of different maps just to kind of get an idea on what you need to do here. So for this test, I'm going to have a Retaliation Cadre list that I've been playing with recently and really enjoying, with a couple of Riptides, 4 units of Crisis, 1 Fusion, 2 Fire Knives, and a Star Scythe, a few Commanders, Shadow Sun, a Ghost Kill, and then just there's some trash and stuff to go around with it, okay? Again, the list doesn't really matter here. It's more so looking at, like, where are the good places for your army, and then understanding what kind of things are good for it. So then when you get to the table, you can analyze it really quickly and be like, okay, this is really positive for me. This is actually really bad, so I need to be able to play around it. And then you can start thinking on how do you play around the negatives and how do you use the positives to your advantage. So we've got this map here, and off the bat, I can see some really, really strong staging right here. So if I have units that I need to attack the center, I know my Kroot sticky objectives and I scout. So if I go first, I really want a unit of Kroot here, and this is really powerful to be able to just scout on sticky this turn 1 and then be able to actually get behind it, and then it forces my opponent out on their turn 1 to make sure it stops the sticky. That's quite nice. I have a very safe spot here, and I have a bunch of infiltrators in my list, so really, really strong. If you see something like this where it's blocked, so like there's no line of sight past that point because that is touching the wall there, the side of the terrain, so I know this is completely safe. I also have lone ops. So I could start my Ghost Kill on here, but I actually could start all of them behind this line, nice and safe, all in here, and I know I'm not going to get hit back turn 1. So this is very powerful for me. But it also means if my opponent has the same thing, they can do the same here. So I need to make sure that I can attack that as quickly as possible. So I'm probably going to start a Cold Star unit here to make sure that with an advance I might be able to get onto there. But at least it puts a threat for everything there, right? Because Cold Star's unit moves 12 inches, and they have assault on their guns. So there is a chance that I get a couple of models, or even just the Cold Star himself on, and that might be enough of a threat if they have a weak infiltrator unit, say like a unit of Goremongers or Jaegers or something like that, that I might be able to kill them, and then with the Ret Cadre Strike and Fade or Torchstar Gambit, get back behind this, or, you know, move back 12 inches, get back to some safety, stuff like that. So I need to be able to pressure my opponents because I understand how good it is. I understand how good it is for me to be here, so I need to understand how good it is for my opponent to be there as well, right? Because they get the same on symmetrical layouts. You always get the same positives and negatives. But because I have a strong staging point here, I have a great spot here that's very safe as well. So starting stealth teams or something in there, or the next staging. So say if you have like a melee threat, you have 1 melee threat there, 1 melee threat there. This melee threat is great for being able to keep your expansion safe, but it's also good to reload this one if the one here needs to go out and clear the center. So this kind of gives you a double use here. So say like you're playing Blood Angels or something a bit more melee eccentric like World Eaters, you can start your first kind of wave. So maybe just Berserkers start here. So then they can go and flip this nice and easily. But you have a couple of units that are 8 bound in here because 8 bound are really strong. They can move 10 inches and then still charge. So they're really easy threat over this entire objective. So that's really, really strong. But they can also just re-rack to be there and then be safe for the next turn. You can also put like a Forge Fiend here. So you also have your making sure that you can overwatch anything that comes out so they can't just flip your primary easily. But then you can also move out and then get shots down here by, moving to there and then getting lines of sight down there or same the other way. So really, really strong being able to poise stuff like that. But also then think about, this is search and destroy on this mission. So if my opponent is Blood Angels or something like that, and I am playing this Rat Catalyst, and they go first, they have 12-inch move and then access to advance and charge. So say they get a 3 on their advance. So they're there. They're there on my turn 1. How do I deal with that? Well, what that means is I need to make sure that my Kroot are blocking everywhere that they can land in there and are base to base or within an inch of each other. And the reason that that's really important is I want to make sure that they can't charge in and then charge through and then get to the other side and base the other side. So when the Kroot die, which they would, they can't 3-inch consolidate and then within an inch. So within 4 inches, get within my tanks and stuff like that, my crisis suits. I am a vehicle-based army, so I can still shoot in combat, but I'd love to be able to move and not have to fall back and stuff like that. So I would do a line like that, make sure that that's safe, and then I'll make sure from that line there is a 4-inch barrier buffer zone to the rest of my units. So everything else would be back here, mainly so that there is this kind of they can't kill the unit and then consolidate into me, because that's just really bad for me, right? That's a lost game condition. So I need to make sure that that's not happening if they go first. So I have the tools to use that, but I just need to make sure that in my deployment, going back to mistake number 1, that we're doing this. Like, this is really important to be able to think about, right? It's like in your deployment, you need to be thinking about this, but it's important that you understand the terrain to understand how you need to deploy. So these things really do go together really, really well. So stuff like that. So thinking about, like, this is a great staging point for me, but it's also a great staging point for my opponent. And that maybe, I think in the Blood Angels Tau matchup, this is probably better for them than it is for me. So I need to make sure that, yes, it would be great if I just had a couple of crisis teams right behind there so I can really blow over open angles. But if they go first, I can't have a unit here because then they just take my whole army and then they get to stage for free. They get to do too much good stuff against me. So I need to make sure that that's not happening. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm getting at with, like, thinking about the terrain. Let's try a different terrain. So let's go another, let's change from search and destroy. Let's go to there's a tipping point here. Let's just go for a medium. Doesn't matter which one. Oh, it's gun 2. Great. Let's just quickly delete the terrain. Yep. And then let's just chuck on one of these again. Beautiful. Change to tipping point. Yeah, tipping points later. Cool. So now we have a tipping point. Okay. We'll go through this one pretty quickly, but again, really safe spot here. So really nice for deployment, and also if you have infantry, really great to be able to stage here as well. You have great staging lines there and there. But this one there is a very good shooting line here. So I would be wanting to put like a Riptide here and here. So then I can come out and then I have free range over all of that. And then I would want a crisis team here so I can come out and then if they go into this edge and stay off that line, then I can come this way. So I think this terrain set here is really, really nice for me. The scariest thing for me is if they hit, say again, Blood Angels or World Eaters are here and they can get into this ruin. It's very difficult for me to dig something out of this ruin. So that's something that's like a loss condition for me. So if I just open this up, if there's a unit of Blood Angels in here, how do I actually deal with that? Like, what is my game plan then? So that means I actually also need to have something staged here so I can come out and then shoot down that line as well, right? So you need to have all these options available to you. So if I'm doing 2 Riptides there and there to make sure that that's always accessible to them, and I have 1 unit here, then my last unit of Fire Knives actually has to start on the board as well and start here, just to make sure that I have pressure to kill if anything stages there if they go first. So it's this kind of stuff that you really need to start analyzing with the terrain, and it doesn't matter what terrain format you're using, right? It really, really doesn't. But that's kind of like where we're at with that. So that's something to think about. Next time you're like looking through missions, looking through the deployments, start thinking about how would you stage? How would your opponent stage? What are your bad matchups? How would you bad matchups in the meta right now deploy on this terrain, and how would they go forward on that terrain? Mistake number 3, poor threat range measurement. So this is one that's, again, kind of goes along with the other two, because like after deployment, you need to then, if you're doing your first turn, you need to understand your opponent's threat ranges. Now, what do I mean by threat ranges? There's a couple of different things here. There's charged threat ranges and shooting angle threat ranges, right? So the shooting angle threat ranges are the more kind of the common one that you see, which is this unit moves X. So say that Chaos Vindicator that we had earlier, it moves 9 inches, but because it's Renegade Raiders, it can also move an additional D6 because it has assault. So it actually has a 15-inch move effectively, which is what you have to kind of play around. So with that 15 inches, where can that unit get to that would ruin my plans, right? So that's kind of what we're going to look into, is how to measure your threat ranges correctly, and making sure that you don't measure them and then like, oh, well, actually, no, I need to go here anyway. So, and kind of go through the how that kind of works out in the game. So I've just set up, using that same map that we were just talking about, a quick little demonstration here on how to check out threat ranges. So we have a Vindicator at either edge of the board, and then we have a Chaos Rhino with a unit of Chosen inside. Again, doesn't matter what these things are, this is just for the example. And we'll say that these are Renegade Raiders. So with my Tau army that I have down here, how do I have, if I do my first turn, so I just have a couple of things, say I want to have this Ghost Kill on this point. Where am I safe from this guy? So this guy has 12-inch low knock. So, but this guy can move 15 inches on average, or not on average, but it can move up to 15 inches. So if you want to be completely safe, there is nowhere there that I can be completely safe from it. But you can see his threat range is 15 plus 12 effectively for the Ghost Kill, right? So you can get to there, but you can see his best angle at me is there. So all I need to do is have this guy here, and then I'm completely safe from this guy's threat range. Maximum threat range, because that's his maximum line there. And yes, he's within 12, but he actually can't physically see me, so I'm safe. So that's how he would be safe from that. But now we have this Chaos Rhino in the middle with Chosen inside. Now they have a 3-inch disembark, and then they have a 6-inch move, so that's 9 inches, and then Chosen can natively advance and charge. So if we're trying to go for the max, we'd need to also be 18 inches away from them, which is just not realistic, right? But what we can do is make sure that we're in the most annoying place for them to have to deal with it, which would be, so let's figure out some lines here. So if this guy can go 15 inches, just for this, we'll just actually move him. So if we're trying to make sure that this Ghost Kill is as safe as possible, we want to make sure that there is no line. Let's draw a line just so we can have it here. Big old line. So we want to make sure, I think there's a way of doing this a bit better. There we go. We want to make sure that there is a line. Cuts off there. And we just want our Ghost Kill here to be just off that line. And just towing onto the point like that. So then we can measure from our Rhino here, and it is 21 inches. So they have a 9-inch get out and then a D6. So 21 minus 9 is 12. So they have to roll a 12 on 3d6. So it's actually an unlikely charge, right? If they roll the big 6, good for them, right? But if this is where they are, it is actually unlikely that they'll make the charge. So that could be like a risk for reward. Also, the unit might not necessarily kill the Ghost Kill. Yes, it's a scary unit if it has a Chaos Lord in there. But you do get 2 blanks and you do have a 2-up save base. So it's like, there is a world where you do survive it, and then they will be here. Yes, they can move back 6 inches and probably get behind this. So this is the kind of things that you need to be able to think about in this matchup is this worth the risk of sending this unit out? And then, so that means we really need to, if we are doing that, this is the thing, is like just understanding the threat ranges, right? Is so many people you play against think, oh, I didn't realize you could get there. And it's like, well, like I told you, like this unit advance and charges, and you understand how things get out of the transport and then can move and advance and do what they need to. So these are the kind of things you need to be thinking about. So is it actually just worthwhile not being on the point? Well, no, you need to start forcing some commitment, especially if you're going first. And we're assuming that the Tau's going first in this scenario. If this is in deployment, I would definitely deploy this guy back so he could get to that position if he goes first. So I'd have him back here. So then with a normal move, he can get to that position, but then he's also in somewhere very safe if I don't go first. So then there really isn't, like, there's a really unrealistic charge there. And then this guy, yes, he can get to that line, but he's not within 12 inches to be able to shoot him because this guy has lone op. This is the kind of things you need to be thinking about and kind of be playing around a little bit. Obviously, if you don't have lone ops, this becomes a bit trickier. So you need to use that line of sight kind of piece a little bit more, but you might also be able to put, say, like a 5-man unit, so like Vesper, but it could be anything really. Maybe you put that unit off that line, so then they can be safe there. But now we see if that unit's there. Well, what if this guy goes? Oops, sorry. Goes, say, like 8 inches there, and then can go like another 7 inches there. We need to make sure. So we're outside of danger zone from the main gun. You get shot with a couple of with a Havoc launcher and stuff. That could be fine, right? But we're just making sure that we understand that that guy's threat range is actually now not enough to get there. And this is stuff that you can ask your opponent, like, hey, where is the maximum this guy can go to get onto this, to shoot at this objective? And most opponents will be really good to be like, hey man, like I can get to, looks like about here. And with that, it looks like I'm just outside of 24. Awesome. Cool. So like no big gun shooting that way because we know that the big gun's 24. So this is the maximum like range. Awesome. Cool. So we're safe from that angle from them. And we're safe from this angle because the max he can go, as we decided, was that line. And we're off that line. So he can't see us down there. So then the only access he has is now sending a chosen brick out to go and kill these guys. That's totally not worth it for them. These guys are 65 points. And it's a couple 100 points for the chosen with a lord, right? So it's not a worthwhile trade for them, especially if we've staged everything else up aggressively to make sure that we could get in and see behind this ruin if they try and sneak back behind the ruin at the end of the turn with the Renegade Raider strat. So stuff like that. That's how you kind of understand threat ranges and just don't fall into them, right? Like you can measure where things can go. Don't let it necessarily impact your game plan too much, but you just need to understand that, okay, this guy could go 15 inches so he can see down that. So this side of the ruin is not safe, but in here probably is fairly safe because with a 15, he only gets to there. So his best line of sight is like down that line. So there's actually a really safe spot in this corner here. So seeing where is safe, where is not safe, and where you can use those places to your advantage. Sometimes you're just going to have to get shot back. That's just 40k. Like you're never going to play a game without getting shot back, right? But like there's things you can do to mitigate it. And that's kind of the idea behind threat ranges and how to deal with them. That's kind of like the shooting threat. That's kind of the melee threat. Obviously, if there's like a longer move or whatever it is behind there, or this could be like, say like a unit of bikes, you got to worry about their threat range, which is 14 plus a d6. So then they're not safe if there's a unit of bikes there, or even a unit of bikes like behind here. That could also be a bit more risky. So it's depending on the board state, that's how you got to assess threat ranges. And in deployment, going back to the first one, is understand even before deployment where your opponent could deploy things and where you think they should deploy things to get the best angles for them. So like here and here is really brutal because they're both covering the center fairly well, because this one can move that way and then see the center that way, can move up this way to threaten this, and then this one from where it is, you can see those. Obviously this is very open if it doesn't go first, because if I have any anti-tank here, it can go in and shoot it. So there's risk to reward to that position. It's probably not the greatest position, to be fair, but it was more just for demonstration purposes. Mistake number 4, failing to trade units efficiently. So a trade in 40k is a term that refers to when you send one unit out to kill another unit with the assumption that your unit is going to die in return. So this is like often done on a points per points basis. Hey, I'm sending out a 150 point unit to kill your 170 point unit. So that is a trade that is efficient in like investment from the units that I'm trading. That is good on just a pure efficiency standpoint. Yes, like point for point, my unit kills your unit. Great. But there's also like a tempo element and the actual scoreboard element. And the scoreboard is actually more important than I could trade 400 points to stop your 100 point unit if it means that I'm winning the game because of it, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the trade is if the end result is you winning the game. So like, there's different ways of thinking about trading. Most people think that it's point for point, but there's a lot more that goes in it. I would trade 50 points more if I'm flipping your 5 primary, right? Like, that's worthwhile for me. So there's stuff like that that's like, you got to kind of like figure out where your line is, if it's worthwhile. What turn it is also matters. The later in the game, the more likely you are to send more resources out. Whereas in early game, if you send a 400 unit out turn 1 to go flip a primary, probably isn't worth it, because you're also losing the threat of the 400 points or whatever the unit might be. Maybe it's like a Custodian Warden's unit with a Blade Champ, something along those lines. So these kind of things aren't really super important to like send out early, but you do want to have you want to understand how to trade efficiently, and that kind of thing. So now we're back, got the exact same setup as earlier, because nothing really needs to change here. And we're just going to do a couple of different examples of an efficient trade, right? So as I said with the bikes earlier, this I think is actually a great example of a 1-for-1 trade, right? And this is a trade that you'd do every day. If these bikes could move 14 inches, get to there, and so we could get all of them to shoot 14 inches, roughly around there. They can all see them, all within rapid fire range. These guys only have like a 4-up armor save, so they're pretty not durable. You got a bunch of bolters. You also have 2 melter guns shooting there, so that could just kill them just from that. So you could do, say, like an area denial in the middle for, you know, a few points. You could kill this unit off there, and also, so you're flipping me off my primary, you're scoring yourself secondary, and you're trading a resource for resource, because these guys are just going to be dead next turn, right? That's kind of that whole idea there. The other option that you would have is advancing this unit and just paying for the advance and charge, just purely because, so you have them like that, and because you only pay for the advance and charge in your charge phase, is have them something like this. So you're still doing your area denial there, but if you don't kill all of these guys, you're not just failing to, because then obviously you're just insane bravery to keep these guys alive, to keep your primary for the Tau player, that you can also then pay that CP to charge and finish off the unit in worst case scenario. Yes, it means you probably aren't getting your area denial, but area denial is 5 points. This is 5 primary. Like, depending on this, maybe there's also a ghost kill that you can't deal with, but it's not within 3. So you're only going to get a small area denial potentially, but you just don't want to send out too many resources. It's like, you know, there's all these things are things you need to be able to consider when taking these trades into account, right? Like, it's not just points for points, it's points plus primary, but also plus assets, right? If this Tau army has quite a few assets involved, it has a double crew, you know, 3 units of stealth teams, and then a bunch of crisis units. Whereas this actually has probably, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 resources. So it actually has, so it's slightly less assets. So if you're always 1-for-1ing each other, the Tau player will win that attrition war. So you can't just 1-for-1. Sometimes you'll need to 2-for-1, or you'll need to make sure that you're getting more out of the trades than the Tau player is. So you can think about it that way, right? Like, it's like, this is great. Like, maybe you have to charge, you end up there. But if you do charge and you get a big charge, maybe this guy goes over to there, this guy blocks the rest, and then this guy can swing all the way over to, say, like here or something. So then when you kill that unit, you can move 4 inches or 3 inches and maybe tag something that's hiding behind this wall. So then you're forcing, say, like, maybe if there's a ghost kill there to, or even like a Riptide. Riptide's, you know, obviously these guys fall back and shoot, so this is not the greatest example, but it's still something. If they're falling back to fall back and shooting, it means that they're not being able to advance. They're not being able to do all sorts of other things that they might have access to, right? So it's things that you can think about there to, like, get more out of the maximum out of this unit possible, right? So it's stuff like that that you really need to think about when thinking about trading. Then if you're using like a bigger unit, say it is, we'll just grab a say it's a unit of 10 chosen that's going to come out of this guy, right? Sending that out just to kill a ghost kill that's just towed onto the center to do, say the Tau player went and did Area now turn 1. They come out, they kill that, cool. They end up roughly in that kind of space, obviously all basing. So something like that. Then, but there's nothing else here for them to tie into. There's nothing but in this ruin. Pardon me. So now you're trading away 10 chosen, 250 points. There's probably a lord in there as well, right? Or a master of executions. So why wouldn't you, to get the extra damage in? Now, yes, you're trading primary and a ghost kill, but this is 300 plus 350 points, 340 points for 160. Now that is where a trade becomes inefficient, right? Yes, if you could get back behind this wall and be safe again, that'd be great. But this tower player has been smart and made sure that the 6-inch fallback doesn't get you back behind the wall. So there's nowhere crazy for you to go. Yes, you can move off that line there to be a bit more safe, somewhere like here. So you're a bit harder to deal with, but there's still definitely going to be shooting lines there. So this is where like the double trade becomes a bit more efficient, right? Whereas like, yes, so this unit ends, we'll say roughly in that kind of space there. Let's just tidy this up a little. Roughly in, say, like that kind of shape. The guy there. Pardon me, I'm gonna take a quick drink. With the Chaos Lord there. At the same time, you have moved these guys forward. You've advanced them, so they get into kind of like here. They kill these guys, and they tag the Riptide. But what the main reason for doing this though is twofold. One, you're taking this guy so he can't. So yes, he can still just jump into here, but you might be able to block that a little bit. Maybe you can go to there. So then he has to go in a very specific spot, which is really, really close to your unit, which can be nice. And the other option you have is also you could move, say, like this way a little bit, and like in some kind of pattern like this, which is also making it really difficult for this guy to get a line down there. And there's lots of like little things that you can try and do. If this guy didn't have this is a very not a great example just because Riptides and Ghost Kills both fall back and shoot, but like if you could tag the vehicles there and then make it so it can't fall back and shoot, then this unit is a lot more survivable, right? It's only maybe something that's coming out there and shooting down there, and you can hopefully hide from that line there. That's the kind of stuff that you want to be thinking about when trading units. Is yes, you want, like, it's a 1-for-1 trade, but you also want to try and let your opponent have to come out as well, so then you can continue the trade. So then they're trading their unit in for your unit, and then you're trading. It's kind of like a back and forth throughout the entire game. You don't want to do a 1-for-1 trade where, yes, you kill one thing, but then they get to kill your thing from safety. That's really bad. Like, you don't want that to be the case. So it's kind of like deciding on the tempo there, right? And that is, that's kind of that mistake. Hopefully you got something out of that one, and we'll move on to the next. Mistake number 5, letting emotions dictate your play. So for this one, it is pretty simple, but it is something that everyone at every level of the game kind of gets sometimes, right? And this will just happen from, say you just rolled 10 dice and you only hit twice on 4-ups. Like, sometimes the dice just absolutely betray you. But what happens in those times often, especially with newer players, is then they just go, well, this didn't work. I'm just going to throw everything forward now. Like, I had one bad turn. The next turn, I'm just going to throw everything forward because what do I have to lose? And the answer is the game. 1 or 2 sets of bad dice doesn't mean you're going to lose the game. It might make the game harder. Yes, I understand that completely. But it doesn't mean that you're going to just lose because of it. It just means you need to play slightly differently. Maybe you need to start playing a bit more defensively instead of actually more aggressively. Or maybe at the start, you need to actually be making sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where dice are the only factor for your losing the game. Tau had a real big issue with this before the most recent update, whereas a lot of the time, like, if the dice were slightly bad, you just kind of lost the game. Now with the new split fire and stuff like that, it's definitely helped it. But with a lot of these things, you just need to be thinking about how to, one, mitigate the dice, but just not let the bad things, like if a bad explosion happened and it killed a bunch of your stuff, like, well, that's really unfortunate, but have a short memory and just kind of get on with it. Like, just keep playing your game. There's still a game of 40k to be played in front of you pretty much every time, and it's up to your decisions to play better and not just let the dice come to you and like let the dice get you down and just ruin the rest of your game plan because you've had one bad turn. That's never the the way to go, and is never something that's going to make you win more games. It's just going to make you lose more games. So it's a huge mistake that I see, and I see this at all levels of the game. You have one bad turn, it's like, oh well, here's everything in the kitchen sink, and then they either win back because they got lucky, or they just lose even harder, which is really, really bad. Sometimes there is obviously times where you just have to throw everything in the kitchen sink forward. I'm not trying to say that that's not a thing, but it is a lot less frequent than I think a lot of people think in the game, right? It's just, if something bad happens, if you're playing on a clock, at the start of your next turn, put the time on you, go for a bit, just tell your opponent, hey, I'm just going to go for a 2-minute walk, clear my head, and come back. Those 2 minutes are going to net you so much better gameplay for the next half an hour, 45 minutes you have left in your game, than if you just tried to just keep playing. Just take a breath, chill down, go grab a glass of water, go to the toilet, whatever you need to do, go take a shit, it doesn't matter. Just go and do it, relax, and then keep playing your game, and you'll be much more likely to play a better game and more likely to win because of that. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Try to do something a bit different here with like using TTS and stuff. So if that worked and you guys enjoyed that and kind of going a bit more in depth into each mistake, let me know what you think about that. Let me know any more things that you want me to talk about in the future. Otherwise, I have a Discord with the link below. I have a Patreon down there. If you want to support me, guys, to make sure I can make more of these videos, go sign up for those. I'm going to be doing a YouTube membership thing in the next month or so to get some extra content coming out for the members only. So if you look out for that in the future. Otherwise, like this video, subscribe, comment down below, or I'll see you guys next time.